Hello, adult leaders. I hope everyone is well. Thank you for all you did to make our first Wednesday night back a huge success. We think we ended up with about, when all was said and done, and I reconciled everybody's counts and name lists, about 90 people with students and adults, which was just awesome. It was a great night. The students seemed so happy to be back and really excited for where we're headed this semester. Wanted to take just a minute to talk about this coming Sunday. Talk about the lesson first. We are in Genesis chapter 3. Last week we looked specifically at the fall. Now we're going to look at the immediate aftermath where God approaches Adam and Eve and asks them, "Where are you?" And that is the title of today's lesson. Several things to point out. First of all, I continue to really enjoy the layout of the lesson. That the first page you really come to after the kind of the general outline is the scripture passages printed out. And so I was able to I'm enjoying it because I'm getting to make notes and underline things all around the verses themselves before I even get into the commentary and the Q&A and all those other things. So it really lets the passage itself, lets the Bible show us itself first. So I encourage you to pray, study just the word itself before you get into other things. But some things I'm going to highlight to the students that you can dive into some more. One is, it really was interesting to me. I'd never seen this before, how Satan promised Adam and Eve, that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened. And then he said, and you will be like God. And what's interesting is it says in verse 7, right after they ate it, the eyes of both of them were opened. And so I thought this was fascinating because what Satan promised them they would experience did happen. But what Satan promised would be the result of that experience was wrong. And so I really want to point out to the students that oftentimes Satan's temptations, the experiences he promises through sin, are not always untrue. If you sin sexually, it's, if you go out and do this thing, you're going to really enjoy it. It's going to be pleasurable. That's true. Go out and do these drugs. That's going to make you feel good. That's true. Go, just lie to cover up your mistake. That might help you out immediately, right? So his promises of what you're going to experience are often true. But what his promises of what the results of those experiences are going to be are not. He doesn't tell you that when you go commit this sin, that the results of that sin, even though the experience in that moment was good, the results of what you did are not. And it's interesting too, it says, it's how the Bible phrases it, says, the eyes of both of them were opened and they knew that they were naked. There was this immediate realization. They were tempted with, you get to be like God. So they went for that, and immediately they realized we're unable, that we cannot be God. Our pursuit of autonomy from God always reveals that we can't be. And so they immediately realize, I need to be covered up. I am insufficient. There's something wrong with me. They broke how God set it up. And so now God is going to have to fix it. So the key themes, one is sin leads to shame and separation. But the second big point is God shows us mercy when we sin. But I also feel like another word to add there is God shows us mercy that leads to hope. And this really leads to this early prediction of Jesus coming in verse 15, but also just to see God's intimate care for Adam and Eve, even after their sin. He comes to them, he speaks to them. It says he fashioned the clothes, he covered them, and even in the killing of the animals to give them clothing, he provides substitution for their sin. Bigger picture, thinking about the theology and the history of the whole Bible, the rest of the Bible is the outplaying of all of that has happened. When God says, this is what childbirth is going to be like, this is what work is going to be like, this is the strife you're going to experience, death will eventually come. The rest of the book of Genesis and the rest of the Bible is the outplaying of the curse of sin, but also the outplaying of God's working of redemption and how he works through the rest of history to bring redemption and salvation to humanity. A theological connection I think is important to point out on that blue page where it says context and connection. It defines sin as missing the mark. The missing of a mark is not a simple mistake, but a falling short of God's glory through consciously choosing sin. This failure of sin is intentional. I think it's really important that students learn this theological idea of what sin is. It's not just, oops, I made a mistake and God, wish I hadn't done that. It is a willful rebellion in our hearts against God that we choose to do, that we fall short of who God is in every way, of his glory and of his goodness. That's what sin is. And so you can progress from there. There's great discussion questions, good commentary. There's a great page at the end here. I'll pop it out and show you. Looks like this. And this is, what do I do when I know I have sinned? And it kind of gives a, instead of this, try doing this. And so that could be something good as well. So I think this lesson lends itself both to really important theological and biblical foundations for how we view sin and redemption throughout the rest of the Bible and human struggle, but also very practical on how does an individual teenager who struggles with certain sins, what do they do? How do they handle sin and forgiveness and hope and mercy in their own life through God's provision? This coming Sunday, we're going to try and start reducing the time we spend in large group, just because the space is just continues to be a little challenging with everyone in there at once. So I will keep the opening time as brief as possible to get you into your group time quickly. So it's going to continue to be a learning process, but there's also a new leader resource center. It says Life Team on it, really big in the middle, and there's all kinds of things there for you. There's mints, there's candy bars to snack on if you want one, or if you want to give a candy bar to somebody in your group for doing well and use that as a prize or an incentive. But everything on that table is for, or that shelf is for you. There's copies of the lessons, but also there's lanyards there with our names on them, or you need to make one with your name on it. And I want us to all start wearing these. I'm going to start wearing one as well, so that when parents or new families show up, when they see people with the lanyard and the name tag, they know that's somebody they can go to for help. So to help designate us, so that when visitors come, they know who to go to ask for help. So I just ask you each week to this Sunday, make yourself one and wear it. And then when you leave, before you leave, hang it back on the hook, and then it'll be there for you on the following week. But leaders, thanks for all that you do. Continue to look, to be excited to share new ideas we're going to be putting in place over the semester. Just little things for Sundays and Wednesdays to increase the excellence, make it more engaging, and hopefully continue to make it a place where students want to come and bring their friends to hear the gospel. But thanks for how you lead and teach. Praying for you. We'll see you Sunday morning.